So we have the observer becomes the observed. One of my favorite quotes from Krishnamurti. What does that mean to you, Scott?
Well, I'm not sure. Let's unpack that. Is that something like the hunter becomes the hunted?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's different actually to me. I feel that when Krishnamurti is talking about the observer, that's like me, the sort of ego Geoff is sitting on top of a cliff looking at the ocean. There's two things. There's me doing the observing, and then what am I observing? The observed is the ocean, right? So there's a separateness going on. And when he says that like the observer becomes the observed, it's like me as the observer, I actually dissolve into the very thing that I'm looking at, the ocean, and there's only one thing. There's nothing. There's just this experience of it all, where the hunter becoming the hunted keeps this two things at play. There's always going to be a hunter and a hunted. So it's just kind of like rowing back into duality, if
Or
you
you
like.
could either be the hunter or you could be the hunted, but it's a duality. It's one or the other, maybe.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying, if I'm understanding, is it reminds me of like a Japanese landscape painting where it's all landscape, and then just somewhere random you'll see a little figure in there.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of an artistic way of representing this kind of dissolution into the background, into the natural scene. And from like my first person perspective of sitting on that cliff, I'm just experiencing the scene. I'm just experiencing nature around me. I'm experiencing the ocean. I'm experiencing the cliff. And
have you ever had one of those breakthroughs, like, where you just actually are no longer, thinking about it, labeling it, using words, and you're just totally absorbed in the experience? Nature is great for it, like sunsets or, like clouds on mountains or whatever. But have you ever had that happen to you where you're taken out of yourself and you kind of become one with it all?
Yeah, it reminds me of like a flow state where you're fully stuck into your experience, and there's no words necessary. You're just in rapture, in appreciation, in love with like a mandala that you've just made, or in love with the rainbow that you're seeing in front of your eyes, or something beautiful. Often beauty is a call to this. Oftentimes you're just like in love with what you're looking at. And then you as a separate person sort of dissolves, and it becomes like an abstraction to think of like, oh, I'm this person, right? That's almost like akin to thinking of some random thought. It's not really being there now in the moment.
Yeah. It's like that part of you leaves the building temporarily, and it's not something you can kind of do. Like, you can't sort of say, right, I'm just going to dissolve into all that is right now. It's almost like something that happens to you if the circumstances are conducive to it or something.
It's kind of a precious state that you can slip into. And when you're there, it's like, oh my God, it's almost like a lucid dream or something where you're really enjoying this experience, but all of a sudden it can be really easy to pop out of it. If you have some thoughts about being the observer, then you're out of it now.
It's like thinking is like, it kind of closes it down. The minute you go like, oh my God, this is so beautiful, look at the sunset, then there's an observer again. It's like, when it's so beautiful when you actually you stop labeling, you stop using words, you just are one with whatever it is that's going on for you. Usually it's easier if it's like some kind of beautiful, gorgeous peak experience in nature, it's probably less likely to happen on like an underground train system in a busy city. It might
happen, but you're right.
Could happen. Yeah. But in my experience, it tends to be the top of the mountain experiences. But I think that's what Krishnamurti was alluding to with the observer becomes the observed.
I'd like to know what you guys think.
Yeah, so if you've got any thoughts or ideas on the observer becomes the observed, please let us know in the comments below.